It's Viking Boy Billy, and this is Theology Time, Episode 2, which is quite long overdue, but I only have 20 subscribers, so probably nobody will even notice, much less care. But, yeah, on my first video, someone called Mongol Peace commented, and I recommend checking out that channel because it's filled with a lot of good documentary videos on Mongolian history and the stuff that they do, and even a video about a restaurant where people eat sheep's head. So you can enjoy watching a lady eating a sheep's head. That's quite a fun video. But, yeah, okay. I read a book on Native American mythology, and one group I found particularly interesting was the Pawnee, because they have the closest thing to a pantheon of gods. And, well, their main god, Tirawa, they give human sacrifices to him, and I really want to read you the Wikipedia entry for their morning star ceremony. The morning star ceremony was a ritual sacrifice of a young girl in the spring. It was connected to the creation story in which the mating of the male morning star with the female evening star created the first human being, a girl. The ceremony was not held in full every year, but only when a man of the village dreamed that the morning star had come to him and told him to perform the ceremony. He then consulted with the morning star priest, who has been reading the sky. Together they determined whether the morning star was demanding only the more common yearly symbolic ceremony, or requiring that the ceremony be carried out in full. When the Pawnee priests would identify certain celestial bodies on the horizon, they would know that the morning star needed to be appeased with the sacrifice of a young girl. The sacrifice was performed only in years when Mars was morning star, and usually originated in a dream in which the morning star appeared to some man and directed him to capture a suitable victim. The dreamer went to the keeper of the morning star bundle and received from him the warrior's costume kept in it. He then set out, accompanied by volunteers, and made a night attack upon an enemy village. As soon as a girl of suitable age was captured, the attack ceased and the party returned. The girl was dedicated to the morning star at the moment of her capture, and was given into the care of the leader of the party who, on its return, turned her over to the chief of the morning star. Returning to the village, the people treated the girl with respect, but they kept her isolated from the rest of the camp. If it was spring and time for the sacrifice, she was ritually cleansed. What was a 5-day ceremony was begun around her. The morning star priest would sing songs, and the girl was symbolically transformed from human form to be among the celestial bodies. Here the girl became the ritual representation of the evening star. She was not impersonating the deity, but instead had become an earthly embodiment. On the final day of the ceremony, a procession of men, boys, and even male infants accompanied the girl outside the village to where the men had raised a scaffold. They had used sacred woods and skins, and the scaffold represented Evening Star's garden in the west, the source of all animal and plant life. The priests removed her clothing, and the procession was timed so that she would be left alone on the scaffold at the moment the morning star rose. When the morning star appeared, 2 men from the east with flaming brands and touched her lightly in the armpit and groins. 4 other men then touched her with war clubs. The man who had captured her then ran forward with the bow from the skull bundle and a sacred arrow and shot her through the heart, while another man struck her on the head with a war club from the Morning Star bundle. The officiating priest then opened her breast with a flint knife and smeared his face with the blood, while her captor caught the falling blood on dried meat. All the male members of the tribe then pressed forward and shot arrows into the body. They then circled the scaffold 4 times and dispersed. To fulfill the creation of life, the men of the village would take on the role of the morning star, which is why 2 men would come from the east with flaming brands representing the sun. The men acted out the violence which had allowed the morning star to mate with the evening star, by breaking her vaginal teeth in the creation story with a meteor stone. During the morning star ceremony, the captive was shot in the heart, and a man struck her on the head with the war club from the morning star bundle. By having all the men in the village shoot arrows into her body, the village men, embodiments of Morning Star, were symbolically mating with her. Her blood would drip down from the scaffolding and onto the ground, which had been made to represent the Evening Star's garden of all plant and animal life. They took her body and laid the girl face down on the prairie, where her blood would enter the earth and fertilize the ground. The spirit of the Evening Star was released, and the men ensured the success of the crops, all life on the plains, and the perpetuation of the universe. It's pretty gruesome, isn't it? Well, you can make of that whatever you want, but I think it's kind of neat, because I used to think that the human sacrifice thing was mostly only like a Central American thing, but these guys were living in like the plains in North America, so yeah, that's kind of neat. And there was another, and like most of the stories from Native American mythology, at least the ones I read, they don't really focus on like heroes and like these epic feats or anything like that. They're more like these neat spiritual little stories, and like the characters in them, like they're just like regular people. Like most of them, like they aren't even given names, and like there's one story in particular that really got to me, and it was about a man and his wife, and they lived in the woods alone, So they were hermits away from their village. And one day his wife died, and that devastated him, and it made him become a little emotionally unstable because of the loneliness and whatnot. So he took a hunk of wood and carved it into a doll that looked like his wife, and he pretended that it was her. He talked to it and everything. I don't think he slept with it. He let it sit in the chair, but yeah, he treated it as if it was his wife. And then later in the story, after when he comes home from hunting, he finds that all the housework had been done for him, and he doesn't know who did it. And he finds nothing in his house except for that doll. So, yeah, since you can all see this coming a mile away, yeah, that his wife's spirit possessed the doll, and she's doing all this stuff for him. So eventually she reveals herself to him, and but she tells him that he cannot touch her, and that kind of drives, or else she'll just become a doll again, and that drives him a little crazy. But if they go back to the village and meet the people, then he'll be able to touch her without her dying again, for some reason. So they start heading back to the village, but one night they camp out, and he just can't resist hugging her in bed, and then she turns back into a doll, and then he meets the village people, but he's too depressed and insane to want to live with them, and just runs back to the forest. And then I think he just leaves the doll lying around on the ground in the woods somewhere. But and then he spends the rest of his life alone and sad. And the book ended with that story. It was so sad. And that's the one they chose to end it with. And I can really feel for that story, because I have a problem with letting go myself. I'm extremely clingy, and I don't mean with a girl, just with a girl, but when my cat died, I never wanted another pet again, and I'm still obsessed with my old best friend that I moved away from, and a whole lot of stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely about the dangers of becoming too attached and upset with losing somebody, but and then not even trying to fit back in with society or try anything new. So, but, I think that's it for this episode. There isn't much more I want to talk about. So, I'm out.